children, in this video we'll do the program of selection sort. Okay, so firstly you will import the package, import java.io.asterisk, then class, I am writing class selection, then function public static void sorting, any function name you can take. Okay, main also you can write public static void main throws IO exception, as I am going to use the buffered reader and put a stream reader br.readline, so this code can throw the exception. Now few variables I am taking. Firstly I am taking the array integer a equals to new int, and the size of array is 10. Okay, rest of the variables for loop to store the smallest position of smallest, and for swapping. Okay, now making object of input stream reader with the name inp, object name equals to new, I am not writing the full words, input stream reader. Okay, but you have to write the full, you will not be writing in short, system.in. Then make the object of buffered reader, br equals to new buffered reader, pass the object of input stream reader. Okay, now we have to take the values from the user. You can initialize the array also, that will be depending upon the program's requirement. Okay, I am taking from the user, so I am just going to print a message on the screen. Enter 10 array elements or 10 integers you can write. Now we have to read 10 integers, so I am using for loop for that. I equals to 0, size is 10, so less than 10. From 0 we are starting, so less than 10 means from 0 to 9, I plus plus. In this what we have to do, br.readline to read the value from the keyboard, and we need to convert that to integer using this method, integer.parse int. Then we will be storing that within a of I. Okay, this is simply how to store 10 integers in an array. Okay, now if you have to display the values, so similarly you will be writing the same loop to display 10 integers whatever you have stored in a of I, so pln the values of a of I. Okay, you can avoid the braces as only single statement is there. Fine. Now how to sort these array elements. Firstly we'll, from the new page I am doing the sorting. We need a loop for that because we have to traverse the array to find the smallest from beginning to end. So from 0 to less than size, or you can say less than 10 in this case, as we have 10 elements only. Okay, we have definite number of elements. Now what we'll do is small equals to a of I. Okay, we suppose that we are getting the elements from beginning, and whatever the element we are getting first, that is the smallest element. Okay, and the value of I is the position of smallest element. The value of A of I is the smallest, we are assuming, and the position of A of I, that is I index number, that is the position of the smallest element. Okay, we are assuming that whatever the number we are getting from the beginning for the first time, A0 will be considered as the smallest and 0 will be the position of smallest. Okay, now what will be doing? Another loop. In selection sort, what we do, we will find the smallest element and we will interchange that with the first element, very first element. So now we have to find the smallest and we will change that smallest. After getting the smallest, we will be changing that, interchanging that with this one. Okay, from the beginning we are assuming that the beginning element is the smallest element. Okay, we are storing that within a small and its position in POS. Then we will find the next smallest element, we will find the in the array and we will interchange that with this. Okay, so how we will find the smallest? We will start with the next element. So J loop will start with I plus 1. If I is 0, J will be I plus 1. It means the next of I. We'll start finding the smallest from this position. Okay, for this time A0 will be in small and 0 will be in POS, and we are going to start with one position to find the smallest. Okay, size is same, is less than 10, J plus plus. Okay, now what we have to do, how we will find the smallest? We have assumed that this one is the smallest. Now we will compare if A of J, whatever the number we are getting within this, if that is much smaller than this, then we need to swap the value of small. Okay, if A of J is less than small, whatever the value we have in small, if whatever we are getting within A of J is less than small, then what should be in small? A of J. If A of J is less than small, then small equals to A of J and J will be the position of smallest. Okay, simple. Okay, so this is for finding the smallest. Now what we have to do, we have to interchange the values of A of I and the smallest. Okay, for that I have taken a third variable, temporary variable, to store the value of variable temporarily. As if we perform swapping, we need to store the value within a third variable for swapping. Okay, so the value of A of I in temp, now we will store the position of smallest element is in POS. It means that this one is the smallest, we are storing within A of I. A of I is this time A0, means the very first element, very first position. At the 0th position we are storing the smallest element. Okay, and the value of AI, we have to interchange the values. Okay, so the smallest we are keeping at this and the value of this we have to keep in this at the place of smallest. Okay, so A POS will be in A of I, and in A POS at the position of smallest element we have to store the value of A of I, that is within temp. A of I is in temp, so temp will be in A POS. Simply the value of A of I in temp and POS smallest within A of I. Okay, so this is the way you will be performing sorting, selection, sort. Now what you have to do, you have to print the sorted array. array in ascending order. Again, to traverse an array for printing, for storing, for calculation, you need to write for loop. Without that, you can't access the array elements. K is less than 10, K plus plus, then SOPLN, A, K, then this class, function and class. Okay. So we are accessing the array elements assuming that the I position, that the very first element is the smallest element and its position is the position of the smallest element. Now again we are writing a loop to access the elements from the next position to end, from I plus 1 to less than 10. Now we are comparing, we have assumed that this one is the smallest. Now we are comparing if any of the element from I plus 1 to less than 10 is less than this value, then we have to store that within small instead of this. Okay. Now through this code we are getting the smallest element. Now we have to interchange with this. Okay. Whatever we are getting within a POS. Okay. A POS means POS is the position of the smallest element. Oh, okay. So a POS means the smallest position value. So we are storing that within a of I, and whatever is in I a of I, that we have stored in TMP, and we are storing that within a POS. So this code is for interchanging the values of the smallest and the appropriate position value. Okay. Now we have to print the array in ascending order through this code.